Welcome to this explainer on AI governance consulting, from principles to operational controls. If you're an enterprise CTO, CIO, or risk leader, you already know the tension. The board is demanding aggressive AI adoption, but your risk teams, they're flashing red warning signs. Today, we're tackling a massive challenge. How do we actually move AI from a theoretical policy on a piece of paper to an enforceable operational reality? Let's kick things off with a quick reality check. Look at your own organization right now and ask yourself three things. What AI systems are active? Who actually owns them? And what specific controls govern their behavior? If you're like most enterprises running AI today, you probably can't answer those questions with absolute certainty. And that's exactly what we need to fix. And hey, if you can't answer them, you're definitely not alone. A 2025 survey of large financial firms showed that 43%, nearly half, lack formal AI risk frameworks. Think about that for a second. Half of these major institutions are deploying AI completely without a safety net. This dangerous gap between deployment and accountability, that's ground zero for regulatory exposure and operational failures. To bridge that gap, we're going to walk through a four-part journey to operationalize your governance using Cognativ's rapid framework. We'll hit the governance gap, visibility and risk classification, ownership, and finally, operational controls and evidence. All right, part one, the AI governance gap. Look, there is a world of difference between a theoretical policy and a functioning program. Far too often, governance principles are just thick policy binders. They describe great intentions, sure, but they usually just gather dust after the initial assessment. What we need are operational controls. Using frameworks like Rapid, we can embed actual functioning systems directly into your engineering pipelines. We're talking about moving from static rules to dynamic, living guardrails. Moving right along to step two, visibility and risk classification. Because let's face it, you absolutely cannot govern what you can't see. Cognitive structures this chaotic process into three clear phases. You don't want to just dive headfirst into writing policies. Instead, we transition from a comprehensive AI assessment and inventory right into designing the exact frameworks you need and then implementing them as a fully integrated operating model. This step-by-step approach ensures literally nothing falls through the cracks. So in that first step, we audit every single model and capture highly specific metadata. We're pinning down the owner, the provider, the data sources, its purpose, and what actions it's actually taking. Why is this so absolutely crucial? Well, you have to drag shadow IT and rogue generative AI out of the dark. You need a centralized view of exactly what experimental or production systems are touching your data right now. Once we have that inventory, we place those systems into a four-tier risk classification. This is based on their decision influence and workflow coupling, basically how deeply tied the AI is to your core business processes. This method, which has been validated in complex environments like University of Wisconsin Health, makes sure your controls are strictly proportionate to the risk. Put simply, you're not bottlenecking the low-risk tools, but you are absolutely demanding rigorous human oversight where it matters most. And this isn't just some academic internal exercise. The regulatory clock is ticking loudly. The EU AI Act entered into force in August 2024, with general duties kicking in by 2025 and high-risk requirements phasing in right after. Toss in state-level laws like the Colorado AI Act taking effect in June 2026, and you can see why audit readiness isn't a someday problem. It's an immediate operational necessity. To get ahead of those tight timelines, your gap analysis needs to map your current state against the big three frameworks. We're talking the voluntary guidelines of NIST, the certifiable audits of ISO 4201, and the legally binding EU AI Act. Getting this right is non-negotiable. Failing to align here doesn't just mean failing an audit. It could literally mean getting hit with a €35 million penalty under the EU AI Act. Nobody wants that conversation with the board. Which brings us to Phase 3. Ownership and decision rights. To translate those policies into actual human accountability, we use a Rossi matrix. This completely eliminates ambiguity. It spells out exactly who approves system intake, who signs off on deployment, who owns the continuous monitoring, and, most importantly, who holds the rollback authority, the kill switch, during an incident. For every single stage of the AI lifecycle, somebody must be legally and operationally responsible, period. And finally, we hit Section 4, Operational Controls and Evidence. This is where the rubber meets the road, where principles become actual practice. Instead of bolting governance on as some clunky afterthought, Cognitive embeds these controls right into your existing workflows. We're talking approval gates at intake, automated bias and performance testing in the deployment pipeline, and real-time dashboards monitoring for drift. Because these are native checkpoints rather than manual overrides, your engineering teams will actually use them without stalling innovation. At the end of the day, this operational integration produces hard, measurable evidence that your board and C-suite actually care about. You can prove your governance is working, you'll see total inventory coverage, a real reduction in AI failures, faster intake and release times, and rock-solid audit readiness through automated model cards and data lineage. Look, theoretical policies are not going to protect you from multi-million-dollar fines, and manual bottlenecks sure aren't going to help you scale. If you want to scale AI confidently while mitigating your enterprise liability, the mandate is clear. Build AI governance that operates in production.